where everything is going up. Fresh food, interest rates, petrol, energy, tolls, fines, fees, charges, everything in the family budget, but not provide the ability to have families meet those financial obligations. That's what's happening right now in New South Wales.
You mentioned before nurses. You're saying what the union wants re-nurses, 1 nurse per 4 patients, is not affordable.
Yeah, we're concerned about it, and we've started negotiations and talks with the Nurses Association. Obviously, we want to make sure that any policy that we take to the next election is affordable, and that the taxpayers of this state, when they look at Labor, say, you know what, they will implement these policies. That means when I make a commitment, it's fully costed, it can be delivered, and of course it's affordable. So if we're going to make changes that not just this government or the next government, but the one after that and after that as well, we need to make sure it's affordable and it can be costed by New South Wales taxpayers.
On that, I noticed there was Shadow Treasurer Daniel Mookie saying that the New South Wales government's medium-term borrowing costs have more than tripled since the last state budget. Does that mean we won't be getting wild promises from you to buy votes?
You won't, absolutely. Anything we promise will be affordable, it will be fully costed, and we will have the ability to pay for it. And I want the people of this state to understand that when they cast their vote at the next state election. And you're absolutely right. Net debt in New South Wales is on its way to $150 billion. It's the largest figure this state has ever seen, both in absolute terms or as a percentage of gross state product. We've never seen the scale of that debt in New South Wales ever before.
How, in simple terms, do you address these? You just mentioned them: cost of living pressures, rising interest rates, supermarket prices, petrol, childcare, and now mortgage repayments.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, you need to have a government that's focused on the cost of living, that drives down the cost of living. 2 things I'd mention first up. New South Wales is the highest taxing state of any jurisdiction in Australia now. The Premier, Mr Perrottet, insists on his conservative credentials. He's got higher taxes than Victoria, than Queensland, than Western Australia. That's a record, an unenviable record that he has to live with as we get into the next state election. Second point here is privatisation. The government has moved what have often been regulated utilities into the private market. The new private owners have jacked up the transaction costs on the users, and we've ended up with this user pays US-style economy that's burning a hole in the back pocket of families in this state.
Only last month we learnt that all but one New South Wales Coalition MP had been awarded a parliamentary promotion to boost their base salary. Now, when news of that occurred, you urged Premier Perrottet to extend pay rises to healthcare workers and other public servants. In other words, lift the pay cap from 2.5%. Are you saying that should go to 5%?
No, what I'm saying is that we need that productivity-based bargaining system. That's what's in operation in Queensland. The New South Wales government was criticising Labor because they weren't going on strike in Queensland. Well, the reason for that, Alan, is because that government is able to negotiate on classification and conditions as well as wages, get some productivity in the system, and not just make a blunt instrument, a big fight with the lawyers in the courts about a wages cap. We need to talk more broadly about the conditions and wages for New South Wales public servants.